or some of you may have noticed in the paper, about a month ago, a British climber, we think his name was David Sharp, died at the very highest levels. It's called sort of the killing zone, I think, of Mount Everest, while apparently dozens of other climbers shuffled by him, thereby highlighting the high stakes and the sometimes ruthless morality that's involved in sport at that level of, well, achievement. And that got me thinking about things, and in those stories as they appeared, there was mention made of Urszula Tokarska. Here she is.
Hey.
Who, in memory of two close friends who also died climbing, decided that she was going to climb the highest peak on every continent, which she did. Urszula has beaten them all.
When I was first asked to be here, my mind flashed instantly to one particular moment in my life. It was May 27, 2004, 10 o'clock in the morning, and after months of preparation, anticipation, and acclimatization, we ascended from Camp 4 on our final summit bid to Mount Everest. The weather window on Everest, it's usually pretty narrow, and conditions can change during an instant. I was just about to get my 5th out of 7 summits and fulfill the promise that I made to the friend 6 years before. We were on our final leg when it changed, and the word came from our leader: we won't be summiting. And then when that happens, that's it. You may never get another chance. My heart sank, and I thought about a long, hard way down and about my broken promise. And I thought, well, whose idea was it anyway? And that's a very good question. And I think that my openness to this idea, it was a product of ideas and people that influenced my life until that point. So there I was in '98, working and living here in Toronto. And I guess everything was fine, but I didn't really have time to figure it all out. I was too consumed with my career. And so I decided to take a month off. Well, I always want to take a diving trip. So naturally, I ended up in Nepal. I wasn't very athletic as a child, and apparently I wasn't very good geography either. Well, I arrived in Nepal in October of '98, and I met there a group of trekkers from all over the world. One of them was New Zealander Richard Berryman. Well, to say that we hit it off would be understatement of the year. We spent the entire trip together. He was a climbing enthusiast, and he really introduced me to that and to outdoor life in general. I returned from Nepal with a flash of new relationship, even though it was a very long distance one, and that newfound passion. So it wasn't very long before I went to visit Richard in New Zealand. And of course, he had to show me all the climbs and treks that helped shape his life. And one of them was a trek to Ball Pass, the highest alpine pass in New Zealand, in the Southern Alps. And that day, January 11, '99, changed my life forever, because as we were making our way through the pass, Richard stumbled. And just like that, he was gone. He didn't survive the fall. Well, he told me so much in such a short time about call of the mountains, but more than that, about joy of life and value of life. And I think most of all about the fragility of life. Well, I think when something like that happens, you get real sense of urgency. And you don't want to waste another moment in your life. And that's when I started thinking about making more time for climbing. But of course, there's more to that than just grabbing a backpack and a pair of boots. So I took the mountaineering course in Washington State, and And by the end of it, I was ready to climb my first 2 mountains, Mount Jackson and Mount Baker. And that gave me confidence to undertake the climb that was much more important to me than 107 summits. It was to take my friend Richard's ashes to the highest peak in New Zealand, Mount Cook. And that's where I met another person whose ideas greatly influenced my life, Brit Erkles. Well, I could never get a good picture of Brit, and that's probably because I could never catch up with her. The first woman to be ever awarded prestigious membership in the International Association of Mountain Guides. It was an extremely difficult climb on the glacier, and I wasn't very well prepared. And that combined with being ill from contaminated water and sheer emotional exhaustion, as you must imagine, I couldn't complete the climb. And it was totally devastating to me. But I've learned so much about discipline from Brit, and about climbing in general and pacing that propelled me throughout my climbing career since. And if Brit showed me what I couldn't do, at least not yet, through her I met another person that showed me how I could. An old friend and climbing partner of Brit's, Franz Webel. I met him while descent from our unsuccessful attempt on Mount Cook, and I was under his spell from the first moment. He really took me to the next level in climbing. Our relationship quickly developed, and we made some plans to climb in Alberta. Friends always want to see our West, and I was eager to try my new skills. Well, he arrived in Vancouver in August, year 2000, and eventually we made plans to climb north face of Athabasca. It was to be my first technical climb, so I was very excited. Well, as we climbed, the weather deteriorated. And when we get to the summit, we knew we had to make our way down very quickly. With his experience, he thought he could find a way that would get us quicker and safer down. And when he went on to check whether ice was stable in that area, just like that, he was gone. He lost his life on that mountain. But he really showed me what a full life could look like. A life where not a moment is wasted, and every single minute counts. And yes, I did continue to climb, even after all that happened. And if you think that I did it with even greater urgency, you're right. Mountain doesn't care who you are, where you come from, and what language you speak, and who your parents are. I know it sounds pretty corny, but I've learned it firsthand. To a mountain, everybody's the same. Well, I talk a lot about people and a lot about ideas, because that is really the only answer that I have to the question, what gave me idea to climb 7 summits? And I have to think that really it was those people and their ideas that eventually give me the confidence that everything is possible. Because on the June 2nd, 2005, I stood on the top of the world and I fulfilled my promise. I spread my friend's ashes and I became the first woman to climb the 7 summits. Thank you, Moses.